Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV. Afrique Today TV presents every Friday at 7 p.m. The voice of AAU, American Africans United. Host Dr. Yvette Butler Yaboa, MD, and co-host The Invisible Man. American Africans United is a membership organization, and our mission is to promote the idea that people of African descent have common interests, connected by citizenship, culture, and ancestry, and should be unified in our efforts to have and to build communities that are strong economically, politically, and socially. AAU's goal is to build bridges between African Americans, African immigrants, African Caribbean communities in the United States, and the African diaspora, so that all parts of the community can increase its capacity to have life and have it more abundantly.
Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to the voice of AAU. And I am your host, Dr. Yvette Butler Yaboa, and I have my co-host,
The Invisible Man.
Oh, and I don't know if I can hear you very well. You have to speak up louder. I heard it said The Invisible Man, so you're with us today? So I'm not sure if your mic's very good today.
Yep. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Turn it up a little.
Yes. So we can make sure we're hearing you well, because we want to make sure we get all your questions in, and I don't want to overtalk you. So I want to make sure that my co-host is here with us today, live and in person as the Invisible Man. And so one day you will be able to see the Invisible Man, but we are really, really excited today. We have a very special guest. And as you know, so much has happened in the world continually, and of course this week here in the United States. And so we're live from the East Coast, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm really excited about bringing our guest today. But as you know, I always like to start off with a little clipping. So if those of you who were with us last week, and hopefully you're ready and got your walking shoes on. And if you're not here in the DC area, you're on by virtually and on the line with us. But I want to show a video of the honorable, and I'll say the honorable man we're going to bring to you. And I'll tell you a little bit about him after this clipping. Can you show a clipping, please?
Black power matters. Black power matters. Black power matters.
On November 6 and 7, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations will be doing our part to contribute to the destruction of the global system of oppression that crushes down on the freedom and life of African people in the U.S. and the world. I am Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the coalition, and I am inviting you to join us in Washington, D.C., where we will conduct rallies, a march on the White House, and a conference designed to deepen the resistance to police terror, honor our political prisoners and prisoners of war, and to fight for Black community control of the police. This is our contribution to the global fight against colonialism from throughout the Americas, including the U.S., to the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and all the places where we live as a people. More and more, our people now understand that what many were calling racism is really colonialism. Colonialism is a global system that dominates the world. It is a system of foreign and alien domination and is being fought by oppressed people on almost every continent. As the people of Afghanistan have clearly shown, the days of colonial domination are over. We can win our freedom. We can win. We are winning. Uhuru.
And before we bring our guest on, we are really excited to have that young man, Honorable Omali Yeshitela. Now, I'm always pronounce people's name wrong, and I asked you before, but you would definitely correct me. And he is the founder of. And I want to say a little bit about this unbelievable, honorable man. I am so honored to have you on our show today, because you are the chairman also of the African Socialist International and the African People's Socialist Party. And a little bit about his history is from the day that you tore down the racist mural at City Hall in St. Petersburg, Florida, and that was 1966. And I'm going to say Honorable Chairman Omali has never stopped fighting for the liberation of African people everywhere. And what's going on right now, we need more of what you're doing today. And in the heart of the revolutionary struggle and during years in prison for his political work, Honorable Chairman Omali developed the theory of African internationalism and that understands the world through the eyes of the African working class. In 1968, Honorable, and I love to say honorable because you are truly honorable for what you've done, founded the Burning Spear newspaper, which is still published today. The chairman has authored numerous articles, pamphlets, and books. Now, I'm not going to go into everything because you can go to the link that was sent to you if you got it by email, and you'll find out more about this young man who's here today with us and who's done, just amazing things throughout the United States and the world for African and for the African movement. And without further ado, I want to bring our guest on. And Honorable Omali, I am so happy you're with us today. And so could you tell us a little bit more about yourself? And then we're gonna go right into it because we only have an hour and I know there's a lot to share tonight. Okay, I'm not sure if it's my volume, but I don't hear anything. Can you hear me? You can hear me? Because I can't.
Is this better? Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Can
yes.
you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Splendid. Thank you so much. I just was expressing my appreciation for you allowing us to be with you on today. As you mentioned, we have this extraordinarily important mobilization that's happening on tomorrow and the conference on Sunday. And in terms of me, my history, I was born in Florida in the United States. I, at one time, was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. In fact, we organized the first membership-based organization of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I, very early on in my work with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, was imprisoned for snatching down an 8 by 10 foot mural that was hanging in the wall of the City Hall of St. Petersburg, Florida. And I was sentenced to 5 years in prison, among other things. And while in prison, it was a very important moment in our history. It something like 4 months, a little more than 4 months after that mural was torn down in the City Hall of St. Petersburg. Members of the Black Panther Party marched into the State Assembly in San Francisco and the State Assembly in California,
California.
and with a public demonstration. Yeah, no, this was not in Oakland. This was at the state capitol. So they marched
Sacramento,
into
they did in
the assembly.
Sacramento. Yes.
Yeah, and so that happened like 4 months after what we had done in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I have been very active since that time, a little even earlier than then. I mean, I was at one time as a young man, I was in the U.S. Army and went on strike while in the U.S. Army, organized in the U.S. Army on the bases and things like that. And they thought I should leave. I agreed with them. And so my political activity, began in my early 20s, and it continues up to now. And that's been a long time.
Well, I'm so glad we have people like you around. And I'll tell you, I was born and raised in California. So when all that was going on, my brother, unfortunately, who's passed away, was very, very involved. And our mother moved us from Oakland to San Jose because of what was happening to young Black men during that period of time, just missing.
Yes.
And to this day, there's so many who went missing who no one ever even knew about. But I want to talk because I'm gonna tell you right now, I reviewed a lot of your bio and you're on Wikipedia and your history. I am so amazed and honored of all the work that you've done. And I feel more of us should follow in your footsteps to really make a difference. And I want to ask you now, just tell me, what is the purpose of your Uhuru movement that you founded? What is the purpose of that movement?
Uhuru, it is a slogan demand that was made popular in the late 1940s and throughout the 1950s by the Kenyan Land Freedom Army. That was called Mau Mau, that initiated this struggle for independence from England in Kenya. And it was an extraordinary movement, a powerful movement. And in fact, the British killed something like 300,000 African people in Kenya to put down this struggle. So this is where we get the name. It means, in Swahili, it means freedom. And it's a slogan demand that mobilized African people globally, in fact, and had a big impact. In fact, there's no doubt that it contributed to independence in Ghana, where the British could see what was coming with what was happening in their colony in Kenya. So, and our movement, we took that name, and we took that name even when we were working with SNCC. The demand Uhuru was important to us. Africans in the United States were becoming extraordinarily conscious of our connection to Africa, something that had been obscured and something that we had been made ashamed of. And so the 60s was a moment of extraordinary revolutionary upheaval and consciousness of intellectual development of African people globally. And so we recognized this connection, and we had this deep and profound respect and connection to the revolution that was happening in Kenya. And it was something that influenced and informed the political activity we were involved in inside the United States as well. And certainly that was true with me.
Invisible Man, I gotta really stand this point for a second here. I'm gonna let you get in, but
Okay.
I want to, when you talked about then the connection of us to the continent, to the motherland, as I call it, because that is the motherland of all civilization and where I know my blood runs deep. But there's been a wedge, and it's a huge wedge that has now been infiltrated not only amongst those of us Blacks here and our Africans here in the United States, but also our African brothers and sisters. I mean, how could you tell us, how can we remove that wedge and get back to where we understand and we are proud to be Africans as African Americans?
Well, First of all, when you talk about a wedge, you're talking about the murder of Lumumba. You're talking about the overthrow of Nkrumah. You're talking about the attack that was made on the most important leaders of our movement that struggle for the unification of and liberation of Africa and African people globally. Look, we organize and work right now. We have organization throughout the Caribbean. We are in Bermuda. We're in the Bahamas. We in Guadeloupe, we are in Jamaica, and we are growing. But we are also on the continent and have a very pronounced presence in what they call South Africa right now. And we work in the townships among the most oppressed sectors of the African population there. We are working in Uganda. We have some forces in Mali, Chad, Nigeria, Ghana, not Senegal, but Sierra Leone, and throughout Europe. We are in England, France. We have been in consistently in places and other places on the continent, in the European continent as well. So the point that I want to make is that the wedge that you speak of is a wedge that has come as a consequence of the defeat of our revolution, of murder and assassination of people who stood for and fought for our unification, the same way that a little more than 100 years ago, when Marcus Garvey made the statement, Africa for Africans, at home and abroad. And of course, Africa at home was in Africa, and abroad was all these other places that we've been forcibly dispersed to. So this is not, the thing is that we are reconstructing, rebuilding a revolutionary movement of African people globally, because Africa is our homeland, and Africa is the origin not only of civilization, but the existing social system that dominates the world came about as a consequence of an attack on our Africa and our people and the theft of our resources, both human and material. And we, as the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, are committed to overturning that relationship that we have with colonial capitalism.
Thank you, thank you. And I know my co-host has some questions, so jump right in. I don't want to mobilize everything. Jump right in and ask your questions.
The very first question is, sir, are you still a revolutionary?
I'm definitely a revolutionary. I mean, there is no solution short of African people having power over our own lives. And that means that we have to we have to really have the capacity to overturn this relationship that we have with colonial capitalism. So I'm a revolutionary, and all the work we do is in preparation for governing.
Who is the person, you mentioned some names of people who are deceased and who were revolutionaries. Throw out the top revolutionary person that you can think of.
The most top revolutionary person I can think of is Marcus Garvey.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had Castro in mind. And this leads me into the second question. At one point you ran for mayor.
Yeah.
And does a revolutionary run for mayor and want to rule in the government of their oppressors? Or does a revolutionary want to remove the government and establish their own government and proceed in the way of independence?
The government that I'm talking about does want to, and not only wants to, because that's not enough, but actually our movement is actively involved in the capture of political power over our own lives. And our intervention, as one of the questions that I received from you, spoke to the fact that I have run for mayor. Not only did I run for mayor, but we have run candidates, members of our party, ran the first electoral campaign around reparations that happened in history. So we have, yes, we have intervened in this electoral process, not for the purpose of joining them, but for the purpose of elevating the struggle that we're involved in for all these questions. And we believe that doing this and moving correctly helps to negate the power, white power, over our lives. So this is part of the struggle that we're involved in. And if you notice, this country and much of the world, the European world, is in a state of severe crisis. And part of the crisis even revolves around the electoral process. That's the January 6th, you saw all these white people who were dissatisfied with the electoral process. And part of the reason they're dissatisfied with the electoral process, though they don't say it so much, is that peoples around the world, including African in this country, are moving in a fashion that is negating their significance as white people, as dominating the whole world. They can't deal with Venezuela. They can't deal with Afghanistan. They can't deal with peoples around the world who are trying to take back our freedom. And this has created a serious split. When you look at a world economy that has this foundation, where did it come from? Did Jesus or somebody like that make white people rich and the rest of us poor? Did it happen? No, it happened as a consequence of what Marx called primitive accumulation capital. How does this thing start? It starts because Europeans left Europe, starving Europe, impoverished Europe. Europe that had been afflicted with severe disease from 1347 to 1352. In that 4-year period, half the white people on the planet Earth died of plague. They couldn't have had any kind of economy at that time. And then they lived under feudalism. For 1,000 years almost, white people lived under feudal domination. There was no freedom there. And how did they get freedom? And how did they get resources? They got freedom and resources by the initiation of colonial slavery, when attacking on Africa and then spread throughout the world. This is how the whole system got built. This is what maintains it up to now. So what we engaged in very consciously is a movement globally that is designed to negate the significance, negate the influence of colonial white power in the lives of Black people here and every place else. And we got to tear those borders down in Africa and tear down all the borders that separate Black people from each other, whether that's in the Caribbean and what they call the Americas and Africa as well.
Thank you
a
so
very
much.
good answer. And
Yes, thank you so much, because that's a good history lesson. Oh, okay.
Let me finish. Follow up
Okay.
with this. When you talked about Marx, now you said socialism with communism, socialism, imperialism, and colonialism, so many isms. Where does your organization fit in?
We are African internationalists. And that means that we have utilized a method of investigation and analysis that Marx, many people attribute to Marx, but obviously dialectical and historical materialism had to exist thousands of years before Marx, otherwise the pyramids wouldn't be there. And there's other kinds of things that require science. I'm sorry, were you saying something?
No, I was saying, come on, teach.
And so the point that I'm making is that we are African internationalists. And for us, the investigation using methods of investigation and analysis, that's referred to as dialectical materialism. We say the starting point of our investigation is the relationship that Africa and African people have to the emergence of capitalism as a global social system. And this is the starting point. And not as Marx or some others would have it, related to factory workers or people developing in Manchester in England or something to that effect. The whole thing got started through slavery. In fact, Karl Marx once said, describing primitive accumulation, the startup capital that started the entire thing. He said that what he referred to as wage slavery in Europe required as a pedestal slavery pure and simple in what they call the New World. And so it was upon the foundation of African and colonial slavery that the whole capitalist social system got born. And Marx went so far as to say that this thing that he's talking about, primitive accumulation, this thing, he said, turning Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of Black skins. He said that this primitive accumulation that I just described has in political economy the same significance as original sin in theology. This is the starting point. What they have done to Africa and African people and what they've done to oppressed peoples around the world. Europe left Europe, entered into history as a consequence of pushing the rest of us out of history, stealing our resources, both human and material. And it was a global system. It didn't just happen in Manchester, this capitalism that came about. It's a global system, and we have been forcibly dispersed throughout the world. And part of what the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement is about is pulling African people back together in pursuit of total control, total liberation of Africa, total unification of Africa and African people around the world. We can't be satisfied with anything short of that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I was going to ask you, what do you think about the political landscape? Oh yeah, thank you. And I was going to ask you, what do you think about the political landscape? But you have actually answered a lot of that already. But with what's happened, a couple of questions. Do you think? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, wonderful. Do you think that we as African people here in this continent, in United States, I should say, do you think that we will ever get freedom, equality in this country as it is now? And then along that side, what do you think would just happen when everyone's talking about defund the police? And what have we seen at this last election a couple of days ago? When we talk about defund the police, not one place voted for changing the police system as it is. So what place do you see us playing as Africans here in the United States? And do you think we'll ever have any equality? Because I think they just gave them a license to kill.
First of all, I'm sorry, sister. The network is pretty bad. I'm not sure I heard the last thing you said.
No, I was just saying, for me, what I see just happened is that they gave us a license to kill us even more in this country. So I just want to hear from you.
Thank you so much, sister. I think that you're right in terms of the predicament that Africans are faced with. But I don't think there is any future for Africans in this country separate from the future of African people globally. I don't think there's any U.S. solution for Black people. I don't think there's any Caribbean solution for Black people. Look at what has happened to poor Haiti. That was this revolutionary giant, that the first successful slave revolt in history, the first workers' revolution in history, and they've succeeded in isolating Haiti because Haiti represented the biggest threat to the capitalist system ever. Up to this point. And so they were able to isolate Haiti. And virtually every time we've tried to make a move, when we have done that, although Haiti was conscious of its connection to Africans globally, that's one thing I can say for sure. In fact, Dessalines made a call for Africans around the world who were enslaved, come to Haiti. You come to Haiti, you will be free. And this was something that's been part and parcel of the consciousness of African revolutionaries historically. So, but I don't think that there is any separate solution for Black people in this country. And we are part of a nation that has been dispersed, forcibly dispersed, our resources stolen from us, and it has made Europe and white people wealthy at our expense. So no, I don't think there's a separate solution for us here. I think we are part of one African nation. We say one Africa, one nation. That's what we are part of, and that we have to struggle everywhere we are for power, but for power as a part of the overall African revolution. So in the United States, we say we are the U.S. front of the African revolution. In the Caribbean, we are the Caribbean front of the African revolution. We say the same thing about, even if we're in Ghana, and we do have forces in Ghana, we are the Ghanaian front of the African revolution. This notion that somehow in these isolated places like Guadeloupe, et cetera, that we're going to find some freedom, or in the United States, it's not going to happen that way. We have the struggle of Black people globally has run into its limitations when fought within the context of the borders that have been established by colonialism for us. We have to destroy those borders. And it's really interesting because all of white power sucks the blood of all of Africa. The French, the only time you see a difference there is when France might be fighting the US over who's going to get what, and now increasingly they're having to fight China over Africa. We are the only ones who are fragmented to such a point that we're talking about fighting in America, or fighting in Bahamas, or fighting some other place like that. Africa is for Africans at home and abroad, and we have to take it back. And so people say, well, are the Chinese good for us? What's good for us is our having our own power. We need to be able to say that Africans will have a future. Our children will have a future, not because the Chinese is on our side, or because the good white man gets elected president, or something, or one of the good Negroes get elected president. We should be able, we must fight for having a decent future for our children by taking the power in our own hands. That's our responsibility. That's what the Uhuru movement is about. That's what the African Socialist International is about. That's why we're organizing every place in the world like Garvey did, recognizing that that's where our power, our strength is going to come from. And it's time for Africa to feed Africans as opposed to feeding Europe and making Europeans fat at our expense.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Invisible Man, I know you had a follow-up question.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to jump in because now we're in the area of business.
Yes.
And for this definition, please give me a response. Business is the activity of making one's living or making money by producing or buying and selling products. And simply put, it's any activity or enterprise entered into for a profit. And unfortunately, our ancestors were bought and sold in this country and throughout the diaspora and all over the world. How can we as a people realize our true value and worth?
I'm not, let me say that that our party in the United States alone, we have something like 52 independent economic institutions. And they, like furniture store in Philadelphia, furniture store in Oakland, California, where Sister Yeboah is from. We have commercial kitchens. We have African marketplaces where in Philadelphia alone at the One Africa, One Nation market, there are something like 100, more than 100 African vendors who feed their families at this market. So we, and we are in the process, as we have this discussion, of developing a garment factory in South Africa. So the thing is that, you know, the issue is economic development and political economy. And Africans have to have an independent political economy. We have to be self-reliant. That's the thing we're struggling for. And we have created various kinds of institutions, the objective being in part to negate the colonial economy in our communities. That's what, you know, like in St. Louis, we have a remarkable program in St. Louis. You should look it up. It's called Black Power Blueprint. And we take resources from everywhere. And the things that we do, because St. Louis has been one of those places that's been, you can say, desecrated, just it's made desolate in the African community, housing shut down, people being pushed out. They like to refer to this thing as food deserts, etc. So we are curing that. We have taken land, we have bought properties, we have got properties in sham programs that the city government has there. We have taken properties. And we are creating a situation where African people come together in St. Louis at the market that we have created, and we sell to each other. We buy from each other, and we sell to everybody, which is the way it works. So we believe in economic activity in a very serious way. But we understand that there is no way that we are going to be able to join into their system and win our freedom. Their system, as you just mentioned, Invisible Man, is one that has its origin selling Black people. And it will not, that's what it's based on. So we have to bust out of that. And we have to become economically independent. We have to create economically independent institutions. And by the way, let me just say this. The reason that the United States government is attacking Venezuela, the reason that the United States government attacked Cuba, the reason that it's attacking people in the Middle East, etc., is because it wants to deny the people the right to their own resources, because it wants to continue to bleed the world. Because colonial capitalism is a parasite. It has been parasitic from its very inception. So when the host can deny the parasite access to itself, then it is a part of the process of killing the parasite. And this is part of the crisis that we're seeing with the whole social system today. This is why we see permanent warfare going on, why the United States can't stop making war. It can't stop making war because it has to make war in order to continue to steal people's resources, both human and material. So yeah, we believe in economic development in a very deep and profound way. And we fight for economic development. And we use all means that we can to create independent economic activity with the objective of negating the economic influence and power of the colonizers where we are existing as African people. And this is just incipient development of an independent anti-colonial economy for African people.
Well, thank you, thank you. We're going to take a real quick commercial break, but when we're on this break, I want you to think about. You said you guys are starting a garment factory in South Africa. Have you considered going to Ghana, where they've welcomed us back home freely, and to bring businesses there? So let's take a real quick commercial break, and I'm going to want you to think about that, and also want you to come back and tell us what is Black is Back.
Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today. Log in, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV.
Welcome back. And we are here today with the Honorable Omali, who is the chairman of the Black is Back Coalition. And we are really excited to have him today. And he's going to talk. We're having a wonderful discussion. If you've missed the first half, please make sure to tune in and watch it. But let's get back to our Honorable Omali. Could you tell us now, you say you're going to be starting a garment factory in South Africa. Why can't we expand, or have you thought about going to Ghana, where they have welcomed us with open arms, including helping us acquire land for free to do some of our businesses?
We're going to be in Ghana. We have organization in Ghana. In fact, that's one of the places early on that we were looking at. In fact, we had at one juncture been involved in the pursuit of 30 acres of land. That didn't work out in Ghana for a number of reasons. But Ghana, one of the most critical forces in our Africa work in terms of the economic development is a sister who is in Ghana, extraordinary woman. And she, as I said, she is a part of the Africa work. And the reason we are in South Africa as opposed to Ghana right now, where we have so much respect for the work that's happening in Ghana, is in South Africa, we have a more highly developed organizational presence. We just have more people on the ground with structures, organization, and what have you that can make this happen. And but Ghana is going to be a part of that, no doubt about it. Ghana is going to be connected, and we don't respect some kind of borders, and we're going to do it in South Africa and not in Ghana. Ghana is big for us. In fact, this one of the first ideas about the market, the garment factory was based on the work that we do in Ghana. And we've been, my brother, my sister-in-law, in fact, is in Ghana. We can't even get a visa to come to the United States, you know. But so yeah, Ghana is very dear to us, and plus that's Nkrumah country, you know. Yes. That's where Nkrumah is from. But let me just tell you, the Ghana that we're looking at is not Nkrumah's Ghana. So I mean, I know what you mean about what the government is talked about being prepared to do. And I think we should try and take advantage of that, all of us, what it is doing. But this is not Nkrumah's Ghana that we're looking at, and that's for sure. In fact, yeah. Well, I won't push it any further than that.
Well, I just want to say I want to help you get to Ghana, and we're doing work there. So, Chairman, I want to get you back in Ghana and really entrenched, because we can make it happen. We can make it happen in Ghana. All right. And it needs to happen. And we need to, and we'll help facilitate anything that needs to be done, because Ghana truly is the gateway to Africa and to the whole entire motherland. And I've been to South Africa about 9 times, but I tell you, South Africa is not my cup of tea, only because it's like United States. There's not too much difference. The only thing we have, you see a lot more of us, but the money is still shifted and where it's still in the hands where it should not be. And there needs to be a lot of shift in that.
But that's true of Ghana too.
Well, I'm gonna get you there. I want to get you there so you can really get back entrenched, because that is truly the gateway to Africa.
Yeah. But they're off in Ghana too. They stealing all our resources, the gold mines and so much of the resources are being stolen from Ghana, and they utilize the instruments of government that's continued to exist since the overthrow of Nkrumah. The same instruments are there today. That hasn't changed at all. Even Jerry Rawlings, who came in as a very honest person who tried to make some changes, was crushed in the attempts to do that. Ghana is not Nkrumah's Ghana. And we live with a world economy that's effectively a colonial or capitalist economy, and Ghana is part of it. And I'm saying this as somebody who, I'm not just an outsider looking at Ghana. I've been in Ghana and worked in Ghana and have done that for a number of years. And I respect Ghana so much. I respect Africans in Ghana so much. But I remember Ghana, as being this place where this, and now you're about to be offended with me, because I'm going to tell you about this traitorous neo-colonial fellow who went to Ghana and made the statement to Africa and African people in Nkrumah country. It was symbolic as hell. That we can no longer blame the white man and the colonialism for what's happening to us. We have to blame corrupt leaders and things like that. And of course, I'm talking about Barack Hussein Obama, who made that kind of statement, and who has moved with an attempt all the time to obscure the continuous existence of neo-colonialism that Nkrumah warned us about, told us about, so that you can have white power in blackface because they still control the economy. And I'm not blaming any particular individual or government in Ghana for that. I'm blaming all of them for not carrying out Nkrumah's mission. And Nkrumah's mission was to take our Africa back and destroy these borders and to unite with African people on the continent so that we can have independence and control of our own economy, and we won't have to live under neo-colonial domination. We live in neo-colonial domination in Ghana and Ethiopia and every place else on the continent of Africa. And even in this country, we see expressions of that.
Well, let me tell you, I'm not mad at what you said, because it's all true. But I'm going to get you back in Ghana, because the new president is the only one I've seen since Kwame Nkrumah who has a vision of uniting Africa. And I'm not sure if you're aware what was going on they were getting ready to have one currency in the whole West Africa. And there was a lot of things that were going to be going on last year. And then, of course, COVID hit. As far as one currency, the African countries who are francophone, as they call them, We're supposed to be getting their money out of those French banks. And then here we
Yeah.
go with something that happened that so-called devastated the entire world. And unfortunately, those countries are back to where they started 10 years ago. And it's just interesting because I'm gonna get you back there because they need us to help with development and moving forward and changing. And I'll tell you that the plans and that were actively and they can be put back in action. I don't care how much every economy is devastated, it can be put back in action easily if we start really pushing those buttons and doing it the right way. So I know my invisible man wants to jump in. You had a question, and because I definitely want to make
No,
sure that we talk about what's going to go on this weekend too as well.
the only thing I can say is I wanted to give a shout out to an ancestor, and that would be Callie House. If you're not familiar, she was born in 1861 and died in 1928. She is probably the person who was the leader of reparations. So just check her out. But my question now is it's related to a little bit of what you said. The general slogan of a communist is workers of the world unite. And the slogan that you've used is African workers of the world unite and organize. And so my question is, explain how a farmer in Equatorial Guinea or anywhere else on the African continent with the knowledge of themselves compare to the so-called American Negro who has not had any knowledge of himself. His language has been destroyed and so forth. And we are basically living the lives that the colonizers have given us, their language and identity. So how do you rectify or how does that strike you, please, sir?
Okay.
And
First
speaking
of all, I
slow
want to say,
sentences now, speaking slow sentences because it's a deep question. I don't want to lose the answer.
first of all, Africa's Equatorial Guinea are not living their own lives attached to their own culture, etc. Africa and Guinea, where there are less than maybe a million people in Equatorial Guinea, somewhere in that area. And Equatorial Guinea is something that was created by Spain. And all of Africa has been carved up and given out to white people. Our economies have been linked to white economies. Our identities have been locked into these artificial borders that they created for us. And beyond that, our understanding of Africa and ourselves is extraordinarily limited because we don't know each other. We don't know ourselves. And I've gone much of my life with the assumption that we lost our culture, etc. But cultural expressions of African cultural expressions permeates everything that Black people do here and every place else around the world. I mean, it is us, and we just have to recognize that because Equatorial Guinea, I mean, I know people Equatorial Guinea. I haven't been there, but I've been in touch and worked with people who are there and who are oppressed as hell. I've forgotten, is it Theodorus, the name of the family that's dominated Equatorial Guinea under Spain up to this point. So it's
that's
not
correct. I believe you're correct.
The point is, brother, is that we have to take our Africa back. And we are African people everywhere. I mean, that's why all of our music resonates with each other. We have the same kind of cultural inclination, same general sense of humor and what have you. We're one African people. In Africa, these borders that they create don't define us. Cheikh Anta Diop talks about how you can find expressions of African language scattered all over the continent. Like Africa's moved throughout that continent. We've influenced everything. And what has locked us into this place, these borders that white power put on us, that's the real thing that's affected our development. That's the real thing that's even affected our language, because language is a function of trade. And so of economists and economic function. So if you don't have those borders don't come down, that means that we don't have a common economy. We can't have a common economy, which will affect the question of language. We have to talk to each other in order to engage in economic and have economic involvement with each other. I was in Namibia. It was really interesting. I was in Namibia, and every morning TV would come on, and there was Chinese teaching on TV, teaching Chinese language. They weren't teaching Zulu, which was right next to Namibia. They were speaking Chinese because it's tied to the economy. And French, you have French, these Francophone states that was just mentioned, these artificial entities that Kermit Yeboah was talking about, where France right now, this idea that France is gonna give this back. France can't give it back. It'll die. France is nothing. It's nothing without Africa. And so what has happened is every time somebody on the continent of Africa has ever said, where is the money? They don't even know how much money France has taken from them. Every year, France takes an extraordinary amount of resources from their reserve. It goes straight to the French. It goes straight to the French treasury. They don't even see it. Yeah. So you got something like 65% of that. And then after that, they take something 15% or more they charge to handle the 65% that they've already stolen from us, And so France can't give that back. I don't care Macron or anybody say they are not going to give that back, because that's giving up sidewalk cafes. That's giving up the French way of life, because France is nothing without Africa. And they're not going to give those resources. So somebody might have said they lied. I want to tell you right now, they're lying when they said it. We're going to have to take everything that France took from us. We're going to take it back. They're not going to give it to us.
Yeah, you say that, and it's so funny because it was July of last year. All this was supposed to start happening, and then COVID hit. So now no one has money to do anything now, and so that it's very interesting, and it's kind of disheartening because we were all looking forward to all these things changing, because they're trying to make Swahili the national language on the continent. They were going to be having this one currency throughout the West Africa, and hopefully that would spread and generate to other parts of Africa. And everything now it's been a hold and a stop. And we can't,
you see what happened to
sit back and let that happen. Go ahead.
You see what happened to Gbagbo and Ivory Coast, right? That's what Gbagbo and Ivory Coast was trying to even establish economic development with China, as opposed to break free from France. And France, of course, attacked Gbagbo, overthrew him, put Ouattara in power. Ouattara was somebody who had worked either from the IMF for the World Bank for ages, etc. The fact is that we're going to have to take it. They are not going to give it back to us. The same process that robbed Africa and African people of our resources and our humanity, we are going to have to reverse that process. And we're not going to sing or vote our way back into power, our Africa back into our hands. We're going to have to take it. And that's what we're going to have to organize to do. It's going to take revolution to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, it's very interesting when you say that, because what's happening right now is all those countries who were supportive of this one currency working to get their funds back, they're being overthrown as we speak. All those governments who were for this unity for the West African countries, you're now seeing these little coups, and no one in the United States is talking about it because they don't want people to know what's going on as we sit back and deal with all the sequela of COVID and all the magnitude that it has caused and devastation. No one's really looking to see what's happening in those countries right now as we speak, of how those leaders who are supportive of a unified Africa for the left, definitely the West Coast, they're now being taken out of power. And so, and all these little coups. So that's, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of, it's really, and it's like, what do we do? How do we make an impact? Where do we start? Can you kind of just give us some senses? Because I know a lot of the listeners out there want to know, how can we get involved in the movement? How can we truly start making a difference? Because we can't keep having the same cycle happening over and over and over again to us.
We can't. You're right. We can't. And we can't continue to apologize for our own ineptitude, our own philosophical, ideological ineptitude, our own susceptibility to the status quo, because the status quo is relatively comfortable than the unknown. And when I say the unknown, I mean the unknown that's associated with us taking our own power back. The unknown, that means going up against the United States and going up against France and going up against the whole colonial powers. This is what the people in places like Venezuela are engaged in right now. This is what people throughout the Middle East are engaged in right now. And so it's frightening specter for some people. But let me just say this. The Black Revolution of the 1960s, that included Nkrumah and Lumumba and very important forces like that. That included the Invisible Man talked about Castro and Che Guevara and what have you. That included Malcolm X and even Martin Luther King and what have you. These forces were wiped out. They were murdered. And the United States government was central to all of it, from Lumumba all the way to what happened to King and to Malcolm X. And this was destroying not just their lives, but a philosophy, a worldview that we had come to as a people all across the planet Earth. Black people were fighting against colonialism, not some silly thing like racism to make white people like us. We want to fight against colonialism, which meant we want our land back, we want our resources back, we want our labor back, we wanted all of that back. And with their defeat of the revolution, then the U.S. government did just what Warren elevated a certain sector of the African population. So the question was no longer for land or anything like that. The question was to adopt Du Bois' talented 10th program that came along with the Pan-Africanism that he was promoted, that he created, promoted as an attack on Garvey's real struggle of Africa for Africans at home and abroad. So it's not going to come to us easily. We're going to have to take it, just like it was taken from us. And there is no other solution. I wish I could say there's another solution, that somehow if you pray to the right gods or if you vote for the right person or something to that effect, we're going to be free. It ain't going to happen. Nobody else has ever won their freedom in that fashion. It ain't going to happen for African people either. We have to take it. And in the process of doing it, we have to destroy the social system that's based on slavery, a parasitic social system that's based on genocide and slavery. It's got to go. Even if you could find something that was called freedom in America, if an African person, why would you want to be free in this country that rests upon a foundation of genocide against indigenous people, and that it feeds itself because of what it steals from everybody else in the world? How could you live happily in that kind of situation? You can't. And that's why our worldview takes us beyond that and takes us to the centrality of Africa, and African people to the existing social system today. And Africa is everywhere we are as African people.
I want to jump in now, if I may. We're
Yes,
about
go
out of
ahead.
time. I know you got the event. You got the event coming up, so I don't want to take away from you giving us the last word about what you're expecting this weekend. But sounds like what you're saying is a social contract. And a social contract controls the relationship between the people and their government. Now, I want to throw in a spiritual. Go ahead. What you gonna say?
More than that, I'm talking about getting rid of the colonial governments. Period. I'm not talking.
Okay.
I'm not talking about a relationship with any existing government. We're gonna have to overturn our relationship to all of them, because all of them serve colonial white power. But go ahead.
I can't disagree. I saw your face, and so I know you wanted to make a comment. Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Is there a spiritual counterpart to what is going on in the world today, i.e. the story of Moses and Pharaoh?
Well, let me just say that what we refer to as spirituality and what have you, it all has its basis in material life, the land and what have you. That's why you see religion and spirituality having a certain character and depending on where it is, you know. And that's why Africans have complained all the time about the white Jesus and all of that. The thing is that I don't need Moses, and I think that the revolution itself, the process of making the struggle, we have to redefine revolutionary culture and even as it relates to religion. I mean, why Moses and why not what the Africans in Haiti were able to do with Vodun, and why all of this. I don't think we have to go in that direction. I think we pursue revolutionary objectives, taking back our land, taking back our free resources, building on that. Then the spirituality, I think, springs from that, helps to define that, and then gets defined by that. And that's what we need. In our estimation, that's what we have to have.
Okay, well, my final comment. This is what I heard. The most revolutionary act is to get an education. But we don't need an education that's going to further colonialism. We need an education that's going to further our independence.
Yes.
That's right.
It. Yes, sir.
Yes.
And you're promoting that right now. Your presence here, Invisible Man, and my presence here is contributing to that education, especially if we're not locked into the notion of education being something like what we experience all the time, where we go into these institutions and we are treated like people have but nothing in our heads, no culture, no anything, and just there to be somebody pour their own information.
That's right.
Culture, etc. No. Our education has to be one that is designed to overturn this relationship we have with this horrible existence that we experience right now. That's going to be a genuine education. Yeah. Yes, so, yes. Invisible Man, thank you. Yeah.
Well, no, we want to thank you, Honorable Omali, because now I want to actually give you some of the last words and tell us about tomorrow. What do you, for this weekend, what do you see happening this weekend? And we're going to show that video. So please, producer, after he says his comments, let's show the video for tomorrow, because I really want people to be there. If you can't physically be there, I want you to be online. So please tell us what would you like to see tomorrow in the outcomes, and how can more people get involved?
Let me just really thank you, Sister Yeboah, for having me here today. And your presence and what you do is an expression of what it is that we're fighting for. We had a revolutionary movement, not only in this country, but around the world. Black people wanted to be free in the 1960s, and I'm not someone who's nostalgic for the 60s, except that in the 1960s, revolution was the main trend in the entire world, and Africa was central to it. And peoples around the world saw the future as something that Africa was going to bring into existence. And when they destroyed our revolution, they overthrew Nkrumah, who tried to create this one African nation, one African economy, nation state, and what have you. And they murdered Lumumba and some of the best of our forces and what have you. They took revolution off the agenda. They took revolutionary theory, revolutionary philosophy off the agenda. And they left us, they destroyed our organizations and dispersed the members of our organization. They jailed people all over the world and inside this country. And then they gave us things like the Democratic Party as a solution in its program. And so our movement has been on this very troubled and fractured kind of trajectory, until recently what we see is a reemergence of the African Revolution and African revolutionary consciousness. That's what I appreciate about this, but you being here and us having an opportunity to have this discussion, because somebody had tricked our people. And like we used to say that when the white man came to Africa, we had the land and he had the Bible, and then taught us to close our eyes and get on our knees and pray, and we open our eyes and we got the Bible and they got the land. And so what has happened is that this assault on our movement took away the revolutionary ideas and gave us another kind of Bible. And so we no longer believe in, it's not true that we don't, but the most educated, because these elitists that they create in their own image now dominate, much of our lives in our world. And so so we come to this period, at least in the 60s, we knew we were fighting for Black power. We knew we were fighting for something, but the last period, you got a Black president, you got this and that. What are you fighting for? And so we felt like the movement was not tethered to anything philosophically, not tethered to any united movement, any united effort to overturn this oppression. We had silly slogans that meant nothing, like Black Lives Matter, which is a whine more than a demand. It doesn't make any statement about where you're trying to go, what you want, and it doesn't inform the people at all. And so what we did was in 2009, in September 2009, September 12th, 2009, we played a role in pulling together a lot of African people who we saw had the courage and willingness to take a stand around the Obama phenomenon, because Obama was really something treacherous that was done to African people to misdirect us in so many different ways. And we said that the coalition now has 17 different organizations a part of it. And the objective in part was to bring as many of these forces together and to create a common trajectory. We have a national Black political agenda with 19 points that all of us are united around. This is 13 years. This is what we've done. And so if you hear reparations a lot now, we played an important role in that. If you hear people talking about colonialism, we played an important role in that. And the fact is that we're bringing more and more Africans together on a revolutionary trajectory as opposed to this nonsense. Tell me, after you say Black Lives Matter, Joe Biden says Black Lives Matter. Joe Biden was responsible for legislation that put 100,000 cops in our communities to kill Black people, and now Black Lives Matter, because it doesn't mean anything. So we built this incredible coalition. We're different organizations. We're not one single organization, but that's really important. And this thing is growing larger, and more people are now gravitating toward solutions other than what these mealy-mouthed kind of solutions that's been passed on us up to now. That's one of the things that makes it incredibly important. And then we have these discussions, this forum that happens where people can have an opportunity to deal with some of the crucial questions. One raised the question of what do you think about the last elections? Well, we know that elections in this country and most of Europe are simply non-violent contests between sectors of the ruling class for control of the state. That's all an election is. And that non-violent contest did not get resolved with the election of Donald Trump. So you still had this outstanding contradiction fighting for control of the state. That's why you saw January 6th, all these white people rise up, get to throw the whole thing out. But we're going to be free. And that's part of what this coalition is about, mobilizing as many African people from as many fronts, as many different perspectives as possible, struggling for self-determination for Black people, recognizing the unity of African people globally, and fighting against colonial capitalism, which was a system that was imposed on all of us and the whole world as a consequence of the attack on our Africa and us. Uhuru.
Thank you so much. And with those final words, I want to show the video clipping of tomorrow's event, because please, as many of you who are out here in the DC metro area, please be there tomorrow. If you're not in the DC metro area, please tune in. There's also a web link where you can tune in and be part of the movement. So can we show that video? And once again, Honorable Omali, I want to thank you so very much. And I will be contacting you after this because we need to really start mobilizing and working together, because American Africans is all about unity and working together and being part of a movement that is going to change our history back to what it really should be. So thank you again. I want to thank Afrique Today. Can we please have the video to wrap everything up so we can get everyone to have it on their mind to be there tomorrow and be ready to march? And I know there's a march and then there's a conference. So I'm trying to see if we can get the video on.
Black power matters. Black power matters. Black power matters. Black power matters.
On November 6 and 7, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations will be doing our part to contribute to the destruction of the global system of oppression that crushes down on the freedom and life of African people in the U.S. and the world. I am Omali Yeshitela, chairman of the coalition, and I am inviting you to join us in Washington, D.C., where we will conduct rallies, a march on the White House, and a conference designed to deepen the resistance to police terror, honor our political prisoners and prisoners of war, and to fight for black community control of the police. This is our contribution to the global fight against colonialism from throughout the Americas, including the US, to the Middle East, Africa, Europe, and all the places where we live as a people. More and more, our people now understand that what many were calling racism is really colonialism. Colonialism is a global system that dominates the world. It is a system of foreign and alien domination and is being fought by oppressed people on almost every continent. As the people of Afghanistan have clearly shown, the days of colonial domination are over. We can win our freedom. We can win. We are winning. Uhuru.
Thank you so much. And I am really excited. So if you didn't get the website, to go and get the link to register as Black is Back Coalition. So please go to the website and get the information so that you can be part of the movement. Again, I want to thank you. I am your host, Dr. Yvette Butler-Yaboa. My co-host,
The Invisible Man.
well, I guess my co-host logged off already, but I want to thank you again. I want to thank Honorable Chairman Omali for being here with us tonight. So we will see you next Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And thanks, Afrique Today, again, for allowing the voice of American Africans United to be here with you every Friday.
In today's world, video is the most effective content. In 2021 alone, 80% of all content consumed by users was video. If today you don't make video about yourself, about your product, you're losing positions in your business. Afrique Today production invites you to create a video of any complexity. Are you an aspiring blogger, artist, musician, and you want to surprise your audience? Or are you an ordinary person and want to create a family story? Then our team will be able to create a video for you with unique quality, reported shooting, individual shooting, studio shooting, entertainment videos, corporate events. All this we can do for you in the best quality. Just call now and get a 30% discount at 571-612-0496. 571-612-0496. Afrique Today, the best of digital TV. Do you want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Afrique Today Fogham, where you can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Afrique Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.afriquetoday.com.